Awesome, thank you all. Hello everyone, and welcome to our Domestic Violence Awareness Month webinar. On behalf of the Philadelphia Jewish Domestic Violence Research Consortium, we are so grateful to have you here today with us. And for those of you who will be watching the recorded version of this session, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn more about our work. My name is Rachel Yakobashvili, and I'm the Assistant Program Director at Dinah. I'll be moderating today's webinar. The agencies here today have come together to leverage our collective resources to best serve the Jewish community of Greater Philadelphia. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the work of the organizations represented here today takes place on the ancestral land of the Lenni Lenape people. The Lenni Lenape people lived in an area that covered Delaware, eastern Pennsylvania, southeastern New York, and New Jersey when colonizers came in the 1600s. While most Lenape now reside in Oklahoma, as of the 2010 census, about 13,000 residents of the city of Philadelphia identify as Native American. Today, Lenape descendants, along with those of Cherokee, Navajo, Cree, Seminole, and Creek tribes, as well as many others, call Philadelphia home. As organizations that work towards justice, we pay respect and honor to the caretakers of this land from time immemorial until now and into the future. This land acknowledgement is one small act in the ongoing process of working towards being in good relationship with the land and the people of the land. We'd also like to acknowledge that today is the 3rd anniversary of the Tree of Life Synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. On this day, 3 years ago, 11 people were gunned down during Shabbat services because they were Jewish and because the synagogue worked to support a more inclusive country. The shooter was motivated by xenophobic, racist, and anti-Semitic conspiracies, and this brutal attack was not an isolated incident. The call to action from this tragedy is to act on our collective responsibility to fight all forms of injustice, including racism, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, violence against women, and so forth. Yesterday was also the anniversary of the murder of Walter Wallace Jr. Walter Wallace Jr., a 27-year-old Black man, son, husband, and father, was executed in front of his home in West Philadelphia as his mother was intervening to de-escalate the conflict with the police. The Wallace family continues to mourn the unnecessary and tragic death of Walter Wallace on the 1-year anniversary of the shooting. They continue to highlight the importance of the reforms which they have demanded since his death, and it is their overwhelming desire that these reforms will lead to a safer city for all Philadelphians and ensure that no family will be forced to endure the tragedy of the loss of a loved one during a mental health crisis. The Philadelphia community is still processing this pain, and the journey ahead is long, but our agencies are here to help address mental health and violence in our community. Acknowledging these tragedies here today allows us to reaffirm that we are not powerless in the face of violence. We can and must fight back. Together as a consortium and as residents of Greater Philadelphia, we are fighting back and marching on. Our hope here today is to provide an overview of the services and resources each of our organizations provide and how we work together to provide coordinated responses to crisis situations. This will also be an open space for questions from the audience. Allow me to briefly go over some quick notes before we start. As a general overview, the cadence of today's webinar will be that each organization will go over their mission, services, and contact information. And then we'll delve into a discussion of how the consortium works together to serve the needs of survivors. And then we'll move into a Q&A from the audience and close out. Some things to note. The webinar is being recorded and is streaming live on Facebook on each organization's respective Facebook page. And the recorded version will be shared to YouTube for dissemination as well. The chat is set to go to host only. So any chats will be private for purposes of confidentiality, but we do encourage the audience to use the Q&A function to ask the panel specific questions. for the Q&A portion. And you don't have to wait for the Q&A part to start. You can submit your questions as the presentation is going. A note is if you or someone you know is in crisis, please contact our organization. We're here to help. Information of each of the organizations will be on the slides to come. So please do not hesitate to reach out. I will now turn it over to Shayna Weiner, the founder and executive director of Dinah, to share the work of our organization.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. My name is Shayna Weiner. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an attorney in Philadelphia, and I'm the founder and executive director of Dinah. Dinah combats intimate partner violence in the Jewish community of Greater Philadelphia through advocacy, education, and volunteer legal representation. We believe that everyone deserves to be safe and loved, to go to sleep at night and wake up the next day without fear that they may say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, that this might be the day that their life falls apart. The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is when a survivor tries to leave. That's why every agency you'll hear from today is invested in sharing resources and creating a streamlined referral system so that we can harness our collective strengths and services to best serve survivors in our community. Dinah has two flagship programs, our volunteer attorney legal representation program and our community advocate training workshop. We train our volunteer attorneys in trauma-informed lawyering to work with survivors through a Jewish lens and to understand the unique barriers that often prevent Jewish survivors from seeking help, regardless of where they fall on the religious spectrum. Some folks use words like shalom bayit and shanda, and others have never heard those words, but we all understand words like shame, embarrassment, and isolation. As a community, we bear some of the responsibility for perpetuating stereotypes like Jewish men make the best husbands, Jewish men are weak, Jewish women are strong and stubborn. We have created a void in which anyone suffering thinks they are the only one, the exception, the weak one. They believe that no one will listen to them or support them. What our workshop does is provide every participant with some basic tools to help someone in need. We believe that it could save a life. Part of what makes our program unique is that we provide assistance beyond protection orders and we're not income restricted. This is based on two essential assertions. The first is that many survivors come from higher income earning families and don't qualify for services designated for folks at or near the poverty line. The second is that a protection order is not what every survivor needs. That's why we work with clients who need divorce and custody resolution, but also landlord-tenant, employment, and even immigration, so long as there's an underlying abusive relationship in their case. When prospective clients reach out to us, we do a thorough intake and work with the client to assess the best course forward. We take great care to preserve the confidentiality of our clients, including tracking synagogue and community affiliations to ensure that the client is matched with an attorney who is not from their community and is best able to safely represent and preserve the client's confidentiality. Our community advocate training workshop begins with the premise that every individual has or will be called upon to help a survivor at some point in their life. And that can feel very overwhelming, but it doesn't usually look like your coworker coming to you and saying, I'm in an abusive relationship, will you help me? It can look like a friend telling you how tired they are or how irritable their partner has been lately. Our workshop will teach you what domestic violence looks like generally in a Jewish context and some of the legal processes in Pennsylvania. It'll also teach you active listening, to respond supportively, and to present yourself as a safe person to confide in. Our CAT workshop is totally customizable to meet the needs of different groups, and we love to facilitate with any type of group who will have us, whether it be for continuing education credits, professional development, or even as a follow-up to a book club or adult education program at your synagogue. The final thought I want to leave you with for now is when in doubt, call us. Every call is confidential, whether you're a survivor, a concerned person, or professional wanting to offer the most accurate advice to a client. We want to, and we are happy to speak with you. So that's all I'll say for now, but I look forward to answering questions in a bit. Thanks, Rachel.
And Shayna, I can follow up because I'm part of Dinah, but we can provide services in English, Hebrew, and Russian, correct? So,
yes, yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Shayna. I'll turn it over to Rachel Salas, Director of Grants and Partnerships at Family Matters.
Hi, it's Rebecca Salas. And I thank you so much for inviting Family Matters to be a part of this really important forum. We're very honored to be included in this consortium. Family Matters is an organization that provides support to families dealing with a variety of crises, whether it's a mental health crisis, a substance abuse crisis, a domestic violence crisis, any trauma or transition that is affecting the safety and the security of the family. Specifically, we work with families where there are children under the age of 18 living in the home. So we work with families as a whole to improve the level of safety in the home, to improve each individual's level of functioning and the overall functioning of the family. So our highlighted service is through our Family Strengthening Program, which provides intensive case management and support services. So a lot of times case management services are very specific. They offer referrals, kind of hand out phone numbers, tell people go call here, and that's it. Our social workers are very hands-on. It's a highly personalized and specialized system in which our social workers meet individually with families to pinpoint specifically what their needs are, what resources they might need. And instead of just giving them the information, we sit with them to make those phone calls. We sit with them to fill out paperwork that can be burdensome. We can accompany families to appointments in school or in court, or in any scenario where a parent feels like they need extra support, understanding systems that they are unfamiliar with. So what we typically hear from families when they contact us is that they are feeling extremely overwhelmed by the crisis that is facing them, and that they often don't even know where to start in terms of dealing with it. So a lot of times what that results in is people becoming paralyzed by that fear and that uncertainty and doing nothing. So what we attempt to do is just help support families through that process of navigating these systems that are often very unfamiliar, particularly within the Jewish community. Like Shayna talked about with Dinah, we also provide services regardless of a family's religion, but we do have expertise in working with families in the Jewish community. So we understand some of the intricacies of the cultural components and factors that can often lead to, to some complicated circumstances. So, I just had a question pop up on the chat. So we serve families as a whole. There does have to be a child living in the home, but we service the entire family. So whether it's the child or the parent that is dealing with the issue, you would qualify for the service if there is in fact a child living in the home. So typically, families reach out when they are in the middle of a crisis or nearing crisis. So we do a lot of crisis management work in terms of trying to provide support and resources to get families out of crisis. And then we provide ongoing support for as long as the family needs. We don't have a time limit as far as how long we can be involved with the family or how often we can be involved. We are by the family side throughout the duration of whatever their needs are for as long as necessary. The slide highlights some of the most common reasons that we receive referrals, but those are not exclusive. So regardless of what the challenge is, we are more than happy to help. And again, the most important thing that we want to convey to families who are dealing with any of these crises is that they're not alone in navigating them, that family matters as an organization, that this consortium, that the Jewish community is here to support them. And one of the kind of secondary goals that we have is to reduce, kind of also piggybacking on what Shana said, reducing stigma and shame surrounding these issues. Every family deals with complicated issues. It's very difficult to go through life without dealing with some kind of trauma or crisis. We understand that. So we want to remove that stigma, remove that shame, and make it comfortable and safe for families to come forward and ask for help. The slide has the contact information of one of our social workers, Amy Wagner. She is going to be speaking a little bit later. Our phone number is there as well. You can call our office, you can email, you can go on our website. We are available to help whenever a family is in need. And I think that's all for us.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and for answering that question in the chat. I will, please everyone in the audience, feel free to drop any other questions you may have in the chat, the Q&A. And if you are watching on Facebook Live, we do have someone monitoring the comment section on Facebook. So your questions will be answered there as well, sorry. I will now turn it over to Samara Frici, the Director of the Helping Hands Program at JEBS Human Services Career Strategies Department.
Hi, thank you. I'm Samara Frici, and I'm a career counselor and a social worker at JEBS Human Services in our Career Strategies Department. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what I do. As a career counselor, I'm helping all of my clients with the process of getting employment. So some people that come in are employed, but underemployed and not making enough money to make ends meet. And then some people don't have a job. So we get really from GED to PhD coming in for assistance, which is what I love about my job. I get to help such a variety of people. And because I'm a social worker at heart, I have a very holistic approach. And I want to make sure that we're giving everyone as many resources as we can, especially when people are going through really difficult situations. So part of my job is to figure out what a good fit will be for you if you come in and you need a new position. My main priority is to get people working so that they can become more self-sufficient. And I have been actually doing my job for 18 years, a really long time. And over that time span, I've worked with so many people that are going through traumatic situations, people that are in crisis. And it's really my pleasure to be able to help people through this process. So I hope that if anyone's listening and could use assistance with getting a job, could use assistance with figuring out the process, which can be really overwhelming, that you'll reach out or that you'll pass the information on to someone that might need it if you don't need it yourself. So I'll help you figure out what you're qualified to do and also what you're interested in doing. So it's a combination. We'll do your resume. I'll do your whole resume for you, help you write a cover letter, help you figure out how to apply, how to do the job search, how to interview, which can be really anxiety provoking for everyone. And especially if you're going through a tough time, interviewing is even more scary because we're not feeling great about things. So really it's the entire process. I also work with a job developer who has contacts at different companies throughout the Philadelphia area. So we try to kind of help network people into interviews whenever we can. And we do have some case management through our department as well. And so I just wanted to say that I love what Rebecca just mentioned a minute ago about trying to reduce shame. And, a lot of times I think people are worried about coming in for services because it doesn't feel good to be needing help. So I hope that you can get past that if you do need the help, because once people come to us, they realize that we're very down to earth, and we develop strong relationships with all of our clients, and give like complete one-on-one attention. So in terms of services to the Jewish community, I'm the coordinator of our Helping Hands program, which is specifically for the Jewish community. And I hope that you reach out to us if we can help you with this process, if you're going through a tough time, or if you know someone that is. And I'm pretty sure in the chat, we're going to have our website there so that you can find out how to make an appointment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samara. That was awesome. I'll give the floor to Jared Jackson, the founder and executive director of Jews in All Hues.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. Jews in All Hues is an education and advocacy organization that supports Jews of color and multi-heritage Jews. And we are based in Philadelphia in the Mount Airy section. Our goal is to build a future where Jewish people and intersectionality and dignity are normative. And so we mainly work as a consultancy, helping Jewish organizations to create a sense of belonging regarding Jews of color and those with marginalized identities. And we've been at it for 12 years now. Most recently, thanks to a private funder, we have been able to take a part of our budget and dedicate it to helping Jews of color in the Philadelphia area, mainly with rental assistance bills, medical copays, and most of the medical copays have gone for mental health check-ins. And they're not restricted to like Jewish community like service agencies, but we do ask that people that are applying identify as Jews of color, and that sometimes we also help with burial funds with this small pot of money. Aside from that, we do run a number of events throughout the year virtually, thanks to the pandemic. And hopefully in the next year we'll get back to in-person events. But most recently we've been able to do High Holy Day services that were all led by Jews of color. You can find those on our Facebook page. If you want to get a hold of anybody at Jews in All Hues, go to our website and click Contact Us, or you can go to or you can send an email to info@jewsinallhues.org. That gets to everybody, and somebody will be right with you. More often than not, it will be myself, but just being upfront about that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared, for this super important work. I'll now turn it over to Carly Khadash, the licensed social worker and therapist from Jewish Family and Children's Services of Greater Philadelphia, or JFCS for short.
Sorry, I almost forgot to unmute myself. Thank you so much for hosting this really important panel. I'm Carly. I'm a social worker and care manager at Jewish Family and Children's Services of Greater Philadelphia. JFCS is committed to meeting the basic needs of our community members experiencing any sort of challenge or life transition throughout the Greater Philadelphia area. For services that we focus on are financial empowerment, which involves learning about personal finances and finding ways to better someone's financial situation. Sometimes that means referring to a great organization like JEVS for advanced career counseling. And sometimes that means going to individual counseling, which is another service that we offer at JFCS. We also, so in our individual counseling department, we serve people regardless of religion or cultural background, although we do have 2 social workers that are Orthodox Jews that focus specifically on the Orthodox Jewish population. We also provide care management services, and care management looks like a more intensive case management in another type of social service context. This includes things like advocacy, assistance with applying for benefits, and support with critical needs throughout the lifespan. Sometimes this is in collaboration with other organizations, and sometimes JFCS can provide the level of collaborative care that a client needs through our other departments as well. And then in more basic needs, we have food relief, including a phenomenal food delivery program, as well as clothing assistance programs throughout the city. We've been doing in your neighborhood events recently, which includes a pop-up of our our thrift store called In Your Closet, which provides, we have a dressing room, a van that goes out, and people are able to go shopping for really, really amazing quality clothes without any cost. We really pride ourselves in having sensitivity to unique religious and cultural needs of the Orthodox Jewish population. And we want to make sure that that every Jew feels like they can get the quality of care, and every person feels like they can get the quality of care that they deserve throughout the lifespan. When it comes to specific needs for survivors of domestic violence, we also feel that a community is really essential in making sure that people have the support and strength that they need to be able to move through the phases of surviving such a traumatic experience. And so we have support, peer support, as well as support groups. They don't always look like traditional support groups that people come to share feelings. One example is that we have a woman in finance support group that comes to meet to talk about the specific needs of running a one-income household where there might be child support that's court-ordered or not being received. We also have clients that, will be able to contact their care manager if they're in need of an emergency PFA. And then usually that includes a call to Dinah. So we are really happy to be part of such a wonderful collaborative team with great organizations such as all of you.
Thanks so much, Carly. So that rounds out our organization overviews, and we'll transition into the Q&A portion of the webinar. Let me stop sharing my screen and open up the Q&A function, but let me just pose a first question to the group and anyone. I'm sorry. My computer, no, let me out. There we go. The first question to the group, how big of a problem is domestic violence in the Jewish community? And what myths can we dispel about that here today?
Well, if no one else wants to jump in, I will. I love answering this question. So the short answer is domestic abuse is as prevalent in the Jewish community as it is anywhere else in the general population. That's the short answer. The longer answer is that we really don't know because nobody's studying it. So, the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia does this amazing population survey every 10 years that captures a lot of really important data on food insecurity and housing insecurity and mental health and physical health. And from that, we can derive a lot of inferences, but we're still doing our best, making our best guesses. And at the end of the day, right, nobody is out of work because nobody needs our services. So, I'll also just say, of the groups represented here, Dinah's the only one who exclusively serves survivors of violence, and each other organization here speaking today, because of their mission, wrapped into their mission is also serving survivors. So that's, as sort of a figure, how prevalent domestic abuse is in our community.
Anyone else want to jump in on this question?
I'll just say that with the mixed multitudes that we serve over at Jews in All Hues, I quite often hear and witness like people's telling of their domestic violence survivor stories. As somebody who, myself, I'm a domestic abuse survivor. Like when I was a kid, I mean, it's something that's like very close to me, and whenever we have a chance to listen and then act, we will make every effort to do so.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jared. So I'll address a quick kind of logistical question that came up. And anyone else in the audience, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to ask your question in the comments. Someone asked, will the attendees receive the slides after this presentation? If you registered via Zoom and we have your email on hand, I'm happy to download the presentation as a PDF and share it that way. However, if you're watching on Facebook and we don't have access to your email, please email us, and I will drop in the chat the email address that you can email. Another question for the group here in the Q&A, do your organizations engage in any form of alternative dispute resolution, short for ADR, or restorative justice to address familial conflict?
So that is not something that we do at Dinah. We certainly can recommend when appropriate to a client mediation. However, as a general rule, when it comes to domestic abuse, mediation and couples therapy and that kind of stuff is not the best course. There's a lot that happens in that space that does more harm than good. So while custody and divorce are often ripe for mediation and those sorts of out-of-court resolutions, in domestic abuse, that's usually not the way to move forward safely.
I was going to say something really similar. We have some mediators that we work closely with when we have a client that might be experiencing conflict in a relationship, but when the conflict rises to a level of domestic violence, then we generally are not talking about a situation where mediation is valuable or meaningful or helpful in any case. And so while it is something that our organization can help coordinate, it is outside of the scope of JFCS, so it would mean an external referral. But a care manager could participate in that as an advocate with a client, with a mediator, if that was something that would be deemed relevant in the course of treatment.
Awesome. So I think I may guess that folks in the audience may be curious if they themselves don't find themselves in a dangerous or abusive situation, how might they be able to recognize signs of a friend in an abusive relationship, and what can they do to help?
That's a really great question. And I think whoever asked the question, I think that there's a lot of feeling of people wanting to be helpful when they have suspicions that somebody is in a domestic violence relationship or experiencing an element of interpersonal violence. And I think the data shows us that it takes someone who is in an abusive relationship on average 7 years to make the decision to leave that relationship. And so there might be signs that you can interpret as real signs. There might be signs where you're making inferences if you know your friend really well. Some of those signs might be really benign, like Shayna mentioned earlier, your friend talking about how tired they are, or talking about how they feel like they can't do anything right, or they're failing in all of these areas in their personal lives might be a sign. And if there's one piece of advice that I could offer as a mental health professional, It's not to encourage couples counseling. It's not to encourage going to a mediator to try to figure out whether the couple wants to stay together, but to help the friend that you have suspicions about to get into individual therapy as quickly as possible. That is usually the quickest line to helping someone make the realization that their relationship is unhealthy and unsafe and that they need to get out in order to get themselves to safety.
I'll piggyback on that, on everything that Carly said, and also add, it is not anybody's individual responsibility to parse out or diagnose in any way domestic violence, domestic abuse in any of its forms. I can tell you that, to plug again, Dinah's community advocate training workshop, a big part of what we do that I mentioned earlier is really diving into active listening. And what is asked of you as an advocate, as essentially a first responder to domestic abuse, is to hold yourself out as a trusted, safe person. That is, knowing that you are somebody that this person can confide in. You don't know why they're talking to you, they do. And there's a lot that goes unsaid. And so how you respond, whether it's, I can't believe that you guys have any issues at home, you're the perfect couple, or you're just going through a rough time. That's training ourselves to step out of that reaction and to just listen to folks and say, I'm so sorry that things are tough for you right now. Let me know if you ever want to talk. I'm here. Is something that's really light. And, people will, that you don't even know how big of a thing that is for somebody who may have spent years in isolation, that you're somebody that they can reach out to.
I just want to say that I'm glad I'm not a social worker. I'm just an executive director, and I'd like to say that I appreciate that these answers have not come with just call the police or anything like that, because just speaking from a person of color point of view, that's that can be double or triple the danger of the situation. Rachel mentioned earlier the anniversary of Walter Wallace. Well, his family didn't call the police, right? And that is what's running, that runs through, I know, my head every day, but will run through a lot of people's heads if they are people of color, regarding domestic violence or any other domestic situation or healthcare concern. So try to find a way to around that, to get other help, to get real help, and don't just use police as intervention.
JFCS and Family Matters both offer crisis intervention services that, if I can speak for both of you, and Amy and Carly, I'll let you speak to your own services, but both are available options for families in crisis that aren't law enforcement.
And I'll just jump in to say, I think one of the simplest things that we can do is get ahead of the inevitable that you will know someone in your life who needs help, and preemptively share resources, right? So the purpose of today's webinar is to show and explain and delve deep into the services that we all provide as individual organizations, and collectively how we work together by referring to each other's organizations. But you can share the phone numbers and the emails and the websites of our organizations preemptively with a group of friends. You don't have to target an individual. Just say, hey, I just want you to know, this is out here, it's available. You can use your social media platform to share what we post on social media about intimate partner violence, or even if it's not domestic abuse related, some of the organizations here post really important resources on social media. So simple things like that can be, you might not understand the impact that you're having by sharing this information, but someone out there may see it and may use it. And that can be so, so important. So I'll share that. There's a question here in the chat. What are your thoughts on public shaming tactics like social media posts, etc., to address get refusers? And I'll turn it over to Shayna to explain get for those who don't know.
So very, very briefly, get is a Jewish divorce. If you're married by a rabbi, you have to have your marriage dissolved by a panel of rabbis. And it's still a very gendered construct. There's an amazing organization that's based in New York that is not part of our consortium here in Philly called ORA, or the Organization for the Resolution of Agunot. And to address the question directly, they publicly shame get refusers. They organize protests outside get refusers' houses and places of work and synagogues. This is not a system that only exists in the Orthodox community, and it's a very big deal. Personally, I kind of love it. I can't speak to, certainly to an aguna, who is a person, a chained woman who is a victim of a get refusal, right? That should be the target of our focus and what is right and best and safest for them, especially in the context of domestic abuse. Yeah, it's I can't say as a concept, don't do that. It sort of almost goes in the face of what we do, which is shedding light on darkness, and get refusal is a way that abusers abuse. So yeah, highlight it, call it out, and yeah.
And as the Orthodox Jew in the room, I am happy to say, please, yes, when a seruv, which is the religious decree that is issued by a religious court against a get refuser, so against the individual in a relationship who's refusing to grant the religious divorce, it actually requires the community to publicly shame that individual. So public shaming in a get refusing context is a religious obligation. And so I will say that very strongly and very firmly, and say that I fully support the social media platforms, the Free Chaya movement that has been going viral for months on social media. So many victims and survivors of domestic abuse have received their get and their freedom as a result of this campaign. So it is working. And I say, right on.
Thank you. And this is a little bit on a separate note, but I dropped the Aura link in the chat for folks who wanted to look more into get public shaming. And I'm also dropping a link to an organization called Unchained at Last, who fights forced and arranged marriages and child marriages. It was started by a survivor, a Jewish female survivor who escaped her abusive relationship. So they're also a great organization to look into. And they're spearheading a lot of efforts to pass a lot of really important legislation to fight these issues in the common law system. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A right now, but I did want to provide space for any of the panelists, if there's anything that you haven't been able to address or say, feel free to jump in. All right. Totally fine. I think we did our due diligence here today. Thank you everyone in the audience for joining us and joining us on Zoom, streaming us on Facebook. Again, this is being recorded, and for folks who watch it as a recorded version, thank you. Let me quickly share my screen for our closing slide here, which will provide information on how to follow all of us on social media. There we go. It says loading. Okay, there we go. So thank you all for joining. Please follow us on social media. Like I said, sharing resources is one of the best things that we can do to help educate the public and help individuals and families. Once the recording is shared, we'll share both the recording and slides to those who we have emails for. Please feel free to share those with your networks, both professional and personal. We will, as organizations, also share the recording on our social media networks, and that way you can also repost that on your platform. And please do not hesitate to reach out to our respective organizations if you or someone you know is in a crisis situation. And just in case, I also neglected to mention this at the beginning, but on the first slide, we had the information for the Philadelphia Domestic Violence Hotline and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I'll leave the slide up for a few seconds for folks to write down that information as well. Awesome, thank you all. That concludes our webinar today. We're so thankful for you all and for all of the work of these organizations. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you.